Hey guys, welcome back to our ongoing It series. Today we are going to be giving our full review of the entire It book. We finished it. By now our read-along vlog that's way long should be up on the channel. You guys can go check that out if you want to follow along as we go week by week of us reading this book and kind of putting our thoughts on what's been going on in the novel.
This is going to be more of a condensed review, so this will be much shorter, as you can probably tell from the timestamp, and it's going to be spoiler-free.
I think we'll talk more overall about the book than give any in-specific spoilers. Let's get into it. What did you overall think about the book?
Well, first of all, this is a very long book. This is
long.
1,153 pages of this version, and it took us a while to get through it. We were reading week by week together, so we probably could have finished it shorter if we were reading it just one-on-one. But it was long. Overall, I really enjoyed this book. I thought it was really good. There are some hang-ups for me, which if you want to know more spoiler explanations of that, check out our other video. But other than that, I really liked this. This is probably one of my favorite Stephen King's.
Yeah, I haven't read a ton of Stephen King, but this is one of the best ones I have read. I thought it was really good and engaging the whole way through, especially for an 1,100-page book. You kind of expect that there might be some parts that lag behind or are kind of slow.
Which I think there were very small parts of that. It wasn't enough to make me want to put the book down for a week at a time or anything like that.
Yeah, at most it was 15, 20 pages. I didn't feel like there was a 200-page section that was just bad.
Right, and for those of you who haven't read this book, it does have a very interesting format to it. It is two storylines going on. So we have the kids when they're kids, and then we have a storyline when they're grown up. And the way that Stephen King writes this is flip-flopping between the two storylines, even within the same sentence. So you'll be having one sentence as their kids, and in the middle of the sentence, you'll have a paragraph break, and it'll continue the sentence down below of the adult storyline.
In the other timeline,
which I've never experienced that in a book before. I've had timeline jumps, with paragraph breaks like that, but not in the same sentence. So it was very interesting.
Which I do think Stephen King's writing style is very good in this book. I think a lot of authors can get kind of bogged down in the details, and I find that Stephen King just does a good job of kind of giving the right amount. I never feel overwhelmed by his descriptions.
Yeah, the only time I felt a little bit that way was when we were being introduced to all the characters, because I didn't have anything to connect them to other circumstances, because obviously it's the first introduction. So I had a little bit of trouble separating out the characters and who had what timelines for a little bit, but that got resolved pretty quickly. That's
true. He does throw a lot at you at first, but I think that's just because this book is complex. Like most Stephen King books, there's a whole lot going on.
Yeah, and it's a lot that he just very slowly unfurls. The pacing of this book is really well done, in my opinion. Like Stephen mentioned, it gives you just enough information as you go to not bore you or not make you feel like you're kind of in a dead spot. And I thought that was really well done.
Yeah, and I think with that pacing, one of my favorite parts is the tension in this book just builds and builds. So from the very beginning of the book, you feel a little tense, but I feel like it definitely crescendoed the whole way through, culminating in his big climax.
Also, one of the signatures of Stephen King's books, especially his thriller, suspense, horror kind of subjects, is the fact that the supernatural things or the monsters are not the only scary things going on. A lot of times that has to do with human nature as well. Another good example of that is his The Stand novel, which I haven't finished, but there's a lot of that in there. And this one definitely has elements of that too. I think some of the more real-life scenarios in this book were scarier than some of the monster scenes.
Yeah, if you go over to our read-along video, there's several times where we mention a real-life thing, we go, man, I actually feel like that's more unsettling than all the scenes with it.
Yeah.
There were some smaller details about this book that we didn't love as much. There's a couple different parts in there that we didn't like, but the main thing is that Stephen King struggles sometimes with writing female characters in a convincing way and not just using them for, plot devices or using them to support another character.
That has always been one of my chief complaints with Stephen King books is it's just a trend in majority of his books. Not that he can't write strong female characters, but he just tends not to. And we do feel like there was one character in this book that was leaning towards a really good, strong female character, and some things happened towards the end that, in my opinion, just completely destroyed that. And it made me really disappointed, especially because it's pretty much the only main female character in the entire story with, 7 main characters?
Yeah, out of all the antagonists and protagonists, there is one female, and it kind of sucks when that one female gets relegated to just her vagina by the end of the book, and that was a frustrating part for us, and that section of the book where that happens anyways was probably one of our biggest complaints with the book.
If any of you have ever read the book or just read the controversy surrounding this book, yeah, we weren't happy with that. I think me more so.
Yeah, without getting into spoilers, I felt like it bothered both of us. I think it bothered you a little bit more outright, but I wasn't happy with it either. I think it just felt very unnecessary, especially for where it was placed in the book. And if you've ever read this novel, you know what we're talking about. If you want to know and just get spoiled on it, you guys can hop over to our read-along. I know we've plugged that video a lot, but we talk pretty in-depth about that whole scene and why we had a problem with it.
If this is something that also bothers you about Stephen King's work, the just lack of good female characters, I highly recommend checking out his son's work, Joe Hill. I've actually only read one book of his so far, but Nosferatu, it's excellent, and in just that one experience with his writing style, his female characters are much stronger and much more real life. I just think that Stephen King writes them a little flat and, like Stephen said, plot device.
Which, if you're just a fan of Stephen King in general, Nosferatu by his son is really dang good, and actually in a lot of ways very similar to It.
It actually references this book, It, and Pennywise in that book. Stephen King, if you aren't familiar with his work very much, he tends to set all of his novels in the same universe, and so he'll kind of reference different ones throughout different books, and The Dark Tower does that the most, and Nosferatu does the same thing by Joe Hill, so...
Which I actually thought that was one of the cooler parts of this novel, is because you did have some parts where, like, mentioned, like, Shawshank Prison,
yes,
and some other locations. I'm pretty sure there's other books that were referenced that we
absolutely.
totally missed. Overall, we really enjoyed reading this book. It's one of my favorite reads in the past couple of years, and despite a couple complaints there near the end of the book, it was really good. There's nothing for most of the book that we had a problem with. It was really good. I highly recommend you guys go read it.
After completing this book, I think we're even more excited for the rest of our It series that we'll be doing, which will include a review of the original miniseries from 1990. I know I've said 89 in the past few videos, and y'all have very much corrected me.
We've seen the comments.
And we'll also be doing a video reviewing the new movie when it comes out early September. So I'm even more excited to watch those now that we have completed the story, because before reading the book, I didn't know anything about the story besides the fact that it involved a killer clown.
Like we've said in another video, seeing the newest It trailer after having read most of the book, it was just a much cooler experience than when we had seen the first trailer before we had even started it, just knowing who the characters are and everything, and we're very excited.
So if you're excited for this It series along with us, please give us a thumbs up down below, and also subscribe so you can see our videos when they come out. We would love to have you join our little BSReview family. And if you're interested in seeing any of our other videos, we will have those linked over there, and we will see you next time.